Hey guys, it's Kayla back again with another video. You guys ask me about the CFA a lot. If the CFA is right in your situation, specific questions about the CFA, I really just wanted to knock out a video about the CFA. So to make it very simple for this video, if you are not interested in portfolio management, asset management, then I really would not recommend the CFA for you. How to know if you want to go into asset management or portfolio management or hedge funds? Well, it's going to take time for you to go through college, see where you're able to break into, what company, what area of finance you're able to break into. And then if you're not happy in that area of finance and you want to go into asset management, if you want to go into portfolio management, hedge funds, then you can get the CFA and pivot into that area of finance. Is the CFA limited to only finance undergrads? No, you just need to have a bachelor's degree. And if you don't have a bachelor's degree, then you need 4 years of verifiable finance work history. A lot of people think that they should be studying for the CFA when they're in college. And you know what? I really don't think that is the best use of your time in college. I really urge all my viewers, all my subscribers to spend time networking, spend time in your finance clubs that are at your university. Put all of your energy into getting as high of a GPA as possible and to get the best internships possible. That's going to make a much bigger impact on your career than spending time on studying for the CFA during undergrad. Some master's programs, and I think even some bachelor's level programs have our CFA affiliates, have affiliations with the CFA. And to read it word from the CFA Institute themselves, academic institutions that embedded a significant portion of the CFA program, candidate body of knowledge, including the Code of Ethics, Standards of Professional Conduct, into their curriculum. And actually the university that I went to is a CFA, has a CFA affiliation. And I don't particularly, that might have been after I graduated that they implemented that into their finance programs. But it's becoming more and more popular that finance programs are having CFA affiliations. So just look up CFA university affiliations and see if your university has an affiliation with the CFA Institute. How much is the CFA going to cost you to get through all 3 levels of the exams? When I did the math a handful of years ago, between the CFA exam fees and the materials needed to be prepared for the tests, it was about $10,000 for everything to get your CFA designation. That's a relatively low price for education and for a designation with the weight that the CFA carries. But if it is not significant to wherever you want to take your career, then that's $10,000 that you could have spent on other things. I highly urge anybody who is still interested in taking the CFA exams to buy outside study materials, external study materials away from just the stuff that the CFA Institute gives you. I've heard that from many people who have taken the CFA exams that you really need to get study materials outside of the CFA Institute. Not many people realize this, but there are some CFA scholarships. Just Google that and see if you qualify for it. There's some interesting ones there that you might fall into the criteria needed to receive that scholarship. What is the quickest that you can get the CFA done and over with? Well, the quickest absolute time, if you are able to crush every single level of the CFA exam, is 1.5 years. CFA exams are only available 2 times a year, with CFA levels 1, 2, and 3 being able to be taken in June, and December you are able to take CFA level 1. So say you take CFA level 1 this coming December, and then you'd have to take CFA level 2 next June, and then you would take CFA level 3 the following June. So that is 1.5 years there. Realistically, can you do the CFA in 18 months? It's really pushing it because you need it's recommended that you study 300 hours per each level of the exams. That's a lot of hours to prepare for an exam, and especially for finance professionals who are already in the field, are already working a ton of hours. You know, if you break down 300 hours in a 6-month period between those exams, if you want to do the 1.5 year timeline, that's 2 hours of studying per day. And a lot of people, they just do not have the extra 2 hours a day to study for an exam. Some people might think, you know, they'll study for 12 hours on the one day off a week that they might have, and that is just not a good idea. It's not good studying practices to, you know, get this material into your brain and be able to do well on exams. It's just not a good idea. There are some people who like need like 100 study hours and they can pass exams, but you know, the CFA has a very low passing rate. Less than 50% of people pass each level of the CFA exams. And then when you think about all the people who started at level 1, only 10% of those people get all the way to level 3 and pass level 3 and earn the CFA designation. So, you know, it's not a test to take lightly. So if you don't have it in you to study 300 hours in a 6-month period, then, you know, it's not really recommended that you spend this time and money on the exams. You know, it's a pretty common misconception that a CFA is the golden ticket into a finance career. A lot of people think that who are outside of the finance industries. You know, a CFA alone is not going to get you a finance job. Does it look good on paper? Is it a nice to have? Is it a bragging right? Absolutely, because of the time and energy and brain power that you need to put into these exams. It proves that you're a very analytical and quantitative person, and you got some brains for sure. But that isn't the only thing needed to have a successful finance career, and it's not going to be the only thing that will make a HR person pass your resume along for whoever your boss is going to be to say, hey, we're going to hire this person. It's just not enough. I really like this quote that I read. If you want to make a serious amount of money, you need to generate a serious amount of money and take percentage of it via investments, sales, clients, and so on. And the CFA doesn't prepare you to sell products or to win over clients. And the CFA doesn't even teach you how to make investments. The CFA tests your analytical skills, but doesn't test your make a tough decision skills. I really agree with that. These tests are a lot different than what it takes in the moment when you're actually working. There's just so many variables in real life. So that's my take on it. It's not a golden ticket. It's a nice to have. It shows that you got brains. If you're interested in the CFA, if you're interested in networking with CFA holders, I definitely recommend checking out your local CFA society. Most major cities have a CFA society or have a chapter of a CFA society and will have meetings periodically. Usually there's a small cost to joining your local CFA society. If you're a student, it's like half the price of what a normal membership cost would be. I think you just have to show proof that you're in college, which is not hard. Even if you're not a CFA society member, I recommend you look at your local CFA society website, and you'll see that various finance jobs will be posted periodically on the website. And you know, sometimes those jobs are looking for CFA holders, but a lot of times they're not. A lot of times they're just like random finance jobs. It really depends on what area you live in. So there's a tip for you. One subscriber wanted to know any study tips for the CFA exams, and my most general tip would be to figure out what your weaknesses are regarding what is to be expected on the particular exam that you're working on. If you know that you're weak in one area, spend extra time learning and taking practice questions about that particular topic and area. Another major one is a lot of people psych themselves out on test day. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much time you put into preparing for the exam. Sometimes you're just gonna be so nervous and have the idea of these exams so hyped up in your head that you're going to be nervous. And I would tell you to take, one step back, take control and realize that you have spent X amount of hours studying for the exam. Hopefully you have mastered the topics on the exam, and to realize it's just an exam. You've taken other exams during your X amount of years on earth, and that you can crush this. Just be prepared for the day for it to come. Make sure your alarm is working. Make sure you show up to the exam on time. I really recommend people interested in taking the CFA exam start a career, see how that's going, and then take this CFA exam if it still interests you and you have the money to invest into taking the exams. For the people who think they want to go into investment banking, private equity, venture capital, I would tell you that don't take the CFA exam because it does not have a lot of clout in those particular areas of finance. It has clout in asset management, portfolio management, wealth management, hedge funds. If that's where you want to be, take the exam to help you get into those areas, but not until you start a job, not until you start somewhere. For the people who want to go from one industry to another, like maybe you're an engineer and you want to get into finance, I would tell you at first, try and network, put your interest out there, put your best face forward and see if you can get into those particular opportunities, into those particular jobs without spending the time, the energy, the money into getting the CFA. And if you're still interested in those jobs and you don't wiggle your way into one of those jobs, then it might be time to look into the CFA and put all the effort that it takes into being a CFA designated holder. Anytime that I meet somebody who does have their CFA designation, I know that they must be a very self-disciplined, motivated person to have gone through everything that takes to get there. Somebody asked if they should do this MBA and CFA at the same time. Once again, it's going to be like a lot on your plate, right? I would tell you to focus on one or the other depending on where you want to go. Like I mentioned earlier, get your CFA if you want to be a portfolio manager, you want to be in asset management, you want to work in wealth management, you want to work in hedge funds, or you want to be in equity research. Those are the areas where a CFA is appreciated. An MBA is also appreciated in those areas too if you go to a very top level MBA program. If you're just going to your local state school for your MBA, it's not going to have much clout for those kinds of jobs. It's not going to really take you where you need to be. So you have to look at the reality of your life and your career. Can you get into a top MBA program? No, maybe then, okay, let's maybe study for the CFA and see how far you go with the CFA. People want to know CFA versus MBA. It would be quite difficult to do the CFA and the MBA at the same time. Pick one or the other, whatever is more appropriate for your situation. The person asked CFA versus Masters in Finance. The CFA and the Masters in Finance is definitely a lot more related to each other than the MBA and CFA. The CFA and the MSF I could see being recommended at the same time to do together, because MSF, those are more quantitative type of jobs afterwards that you're going to be looking at for most MSF programs. There are some MSF programs that will and can lead you to something like investment banking versus asset management, portfolio management. It really depends on which program you get into for the MSF. But if you could only choose one or the other, MSF or CFA, I would tell you, the CFA is going to be cheaper over the time that it takes versus an MSF. An MSF, bare minimum is going to be $20,000 if you don't have scholarships and financial aid and such. CFA, you're looking about $10,000. So CFA is definitely cheaper. Which one will give you a better chance of getting a job It really depends on who's doing the hiring and what they're looking for. The CFA has a strong society behind it, so if money is a factor, I would probably tell you to do the CFA over the MSF. But once again, how strong is your network? And are you going to be self-disciplined enough to spend at least 300 hours studying for each level of an exam versus having a professor to see every single day of class that you go in and learn? I had one subscriber ask me, is a CFA like an MBA where you should get 2 or 3 years of work experience for it to maximize impact, or can you take it at any time and it still be largely beneficial? My response is, in my opinion, yeah, it is definitely more impactful and beneficial after you get 2 or 3 or more years of work experience in, just because you have a more clear defined vision of what you want and where you want to go. Just going and taking the CFA right out of school isn't necessarily going to open up a ton of doors for you, even if you had the time to take it. If you are working, I would tell you to focus those first couple of years of your career into being the best you and the best you at your job as possible. I think that will be a lot more impactful for the most part than studying and trying to pass the CFA levels. You just never know where life is going to take you. And I would tell you, for most people, for most situations, get into the career, work a few years, see where it takes you, and then decide if the CFA is going to be beneficial for your career. If you feel that you are stuck in your finance career, or if you're in an area you don't want to be, the CFA could help leverage you into a better position, into a position that you want to be in. If you're not at the crossroads there right now, then I would tell you to just keep on working, get the internships, graduate school, get your first jobs, meet people, see where you want to go, and then take the CFA. So that wraps up the truth behind the CFA, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give this video a like. If you have any more comments or questions, be sure to leave them down below. If you're not already subscribed, please give the subscribe button some love. And until next time, I'll see you around another one of my videos. Bye!